So if you are really interested, check out their website too, because they have a lot of good programs. And hopefully in the future, I'll leave that to Liz to decide, but hopefully in the future, we'll be able to do a joint happy hour with them virtually sometime. Trivia, we did trivia, right, trivia, definitely. So with that, let me introduce Ellen Kuwana.
Thank you. I'll also say you can join Northwest Science Writers for like the dollar rate, because I like there to be some reciprocity between the orgs. So just request the $1 rate. I belong to several regional science writing groups, so that's really fun. Okay, if you need to get up and get a drink, get a snack, please do that. If you just need to get up, if you're a fidgeter like I am, I totally understand. I do always like to start with a land acknowledgement, and usually I'm on the Coast Salish peoples in the other Washington, the second Washington. We're a little bigger, but we're second. But today we're on the ancestral land of the Nacotchtank, Anacostan, and Piscataway peoples past and present. So I think that's a nice grounding for us. This is a little bit about me. I edit 4 different scientific journals. I work on large federal grant proposals. Cross our fingers, those are coming back, and a lot of scientific materials for either healthcare professionals or patients. I also like to give learning objectives. In my other life, I would have been a biology teacher or a professor at a university. So I'm going to make the distinction between AI-assisted tools, which are based on algorithms, versus generative AI, which I'm going to call GenAI. I'm going to talk about cautions, including the environmental cost of these large supercomputing farms, which tend to be in states that are hot, and so there's a lot of energy usage. But there are some really good uses for these tools, and I'm going to emphasize in the beginning literature search, which for journalists is just good background research, as well as editing tools for your own text or for other people's text. So it's going to be useful if you have earlier career writers you're in charge of. And then understanding which tool is suited for which purpose, for that optimal purpose. So you're not pulling out a jackhammer every time that you could use a little screwdriver, or a small hammer to put a nail in the wall. That's what I want you to take away from this talk, really, is matching your needs to the tool and not just automatically going to ChatGPT. Another thing, besides the land acknowledgement, I also like to talk a little bit about, if you're not a native English speaker, our language is really difficult, and it takes non-native English speakers twice the amount of time to read a scientific paper and absorb that information. And then if they're writing scientific materials, if you're multilingual or bilingual, it takes more time, naturally, and the papers also get rejected at a higher rate, an almost 13 times higher rate of being asked for revisions. So I think some of these AI-assisted tools and even Gen AI can level the playing field, so to speak, and help bring everybody up to the same kind of level of writing with being able to use these free editing tools that I'm going to talk about that are not generative AI. So AI-assisted tools are algorithms. We'll go through a few. You're already using them. Gen AI is connected to the live internet generally. These are generalizations. It's not true for all of the tools. And they're uptaking your information usually to train large language models. So as you've heard about, there's issues with copyright, image generators with artist work being put in. And we also know that these tools can hallucinate and just make things up whole cloth. So Bryn Nelson, who's an author, Northwest Science writer, was contacted by college students who had asked Gen AI about him, and they're like, we know you have a PhD from Oxford, we know, and he's like, no, that's completely false. Like, first thing I want to teach you is to fact check the information that you're getting before you contact somebody. But thank you for doing some research, but let's do it well. So everybody who uses Word, you're already using these AI-assisted algorithms. So this is spell check, grammar check, and if you delve a little deeper into your settings, you can go into the advanced settings in Word, and there are ones that will flag potentially offensive phrases, search for inclusive language, and provide alternatives. So I really encourage you to dive a little bit deeper, and I'll share these slides with you, but feel free to take pictures, but you'll get a PDF or a link to this as well, so you can go through it, because I'm going to go through a lot of information and give a broad overview, and then we can delve deeper with questions. But there are also these Flesch-Kincaid readability statistics. And on this, what I want you to pay attention to are the last 3 numbers. And the reading ease should be over 60%, so just like a passing grade in high school or college. And the grade level is what it says. This is between 8th and 9th grade level. This is not a great example because I ran this on like a resource page, which was just like short phrases and links. But it had 0% passive sentences. And the goal is not to have 0% passive sentences. As we know, if you're working in science, you say, the cells were put in the centrifuge and spun down. You don't say, we did this, we did this, we did this. But it's just a way to get a read on your text, and when you're working with it, to try to lower the language level. Grammarly is another tool, and I know as professional writers and editors, we sort of scoff sometimes at these algorithms, and we don't need them, but we're all human and we miss things. And then I think it's a way for earlier career people. I was trained as a scientist. I didn't take journalism or English, and so I sort of had to teach myself the craft of writing. And we intuitively know some of those grammar rules, but we also tend to forget them as we move along in our life. And there are different versions, and there are actually ones that are HIPAA compliant for Grammarly. It also can rephrase things if you want to make something into a blog post. I've never worked with any of these things because that's more GenAI, and I'm trying to stay away from that. But it does have an AI detector, so if somebody handed something into you and you wanted to make sure that it was not written by AI, you could put it through one of these free tools. And again, I'm not going to belabor these points, but I do want you to know sort of the privacy settings, the things as the end user you should go in and read and know if your text is being taken up by these tools and how it's being used and how long it's being stored. So some other fun AI-assisted tools. We all know how to capitalize headlines, right? But when you're working with different style guidelines, sometimes I'm like, oh, I can't remember. Is the word FOR or with or by or is that capitalized? This is super fast. You just put it in there. If you had a bunch of subheads, make sure it's all consistent phrasing. You can toggle amongst all these style guidelines. And then actually this has a lot of really good writing instruction in it with this write and edit and play that is actually pretty good information. And if you have a grammar question, you can just pop in your entire sentence and run the grammar check really quickly, totally free. Another one, as native English speakers, we sometimes use phrases, or you'll see something in maybe a British paper, knock-on effect. What does that mean? It means secondary. And would more readers understand the phrase secondary than knock-on? Yes, making strides. Does that have meaning to everybody? So really thinking about some of these best principles of plain language, even though you know what it means and we're generally communicating with smart readers, but the average reader in the US reads at a 6th or 7th grade level. So that's what the newspapers and magazines for the broader public, that's the reading level that they're trying to get to. So with a combination of flesh-contained readability statistics and things like this to think about your word choices, you can reach a broader audience. And science communications is incredibly complex. So I think the more complex the information is, the simpler your sentences should be. And by that, I mean taking long sentences and splitting them into 2 sentences, being really specific with what you're saying when you continue the next sentence and not just saying this means, this what, this framework, this finding shows. Give the reader lots of finger holds to have purchase on as they climb up that wall with you. Vary is a subjective term, just like recent. So give the date when you say a recent study, just say a study, parentheses, 2024. Same with vary. Always try to give the age range or whatever you're talking about with vary. Okay, where'd that go? To lose the vary, you can put in a word that you're using with vary and it'll spit out other words. So just get more precise, more descriptive when you can. I give these talks to college students too, so I like to give them some of these fun tools to kind of ease them into this. And I'm sorry I keep hitting this. So for editing of text and complex text, there are some really good tools. How many people have heard of Perfect It? Just curious. Okay, so this was created by one person who formed a company. It embeds into your Microsoft Word tool ribbon, and I'll show you a picture of this in a demo. It does not uptake your information unless you report an error in the algorithm. Edit GPT is another tool I'm going to show you. I really, really like this tool. It's not related to ChatGPT. It's just an unfortunate name because GPT has meaning and became very popular. And then Really Write was made by an academic editor in the UK. It's completely free. It's like Hemingway, if you've used that, where it color codes sentences, and I'll show you a little bit on that. It's one that the algorithm is set at a 16th grade level. So if you're writing something for a more scientific audience or academic audience, that would be appropriate. So here's what Perfect It looks like. You log in with the same password and email that you use for Microsoft Word or MS, from the cloud. And it's a consistency checker. So it's not specifically looking at grammar or spelling. It's really great, as you can imagine, for large documents or documents that are written collaboratively, where people are using, different phrasing, where they might have T-cell therapy, hyphenated and not hyphenated. And you can customize it. It runs on Chicago Manual of Style, but you can customize it to World Health Organization, British, Australian, English, all sorts of things. There are like 30 options within there. These are all of the different things it tests. So you can imagine if you had en dashes and dashes or hyphens, italicization, things in italics. Okay. Let's speak well. Capitalization of phrases, things like that. It's checking all of these things as well as numbers. And it puts it all in a sidebar, so you are in complete control. It's not changing anything for you. And it's smart enough to know you might have an abbreviation like BMI or GIS or UPS, HIV, DNA. That's not, you don't have to define it anymore. It's also smart enough to know you might define abbreviations in an abstract and not in the body of the paper or several times within a large grant proposal. So here's how it runs. And find the little arrow. There's no sound on this one. I will say that this runs better on PCs than Macs, and that's one thing that they're working on. So I actually called a friend and was telling him over the phone what to click on to record this demo, because it looks more how it looks for most people. But you can see how quickly it's doing this. It's catching colorful, had a U in it. That was the British spelling. If there are 20 instances of that, with one click of a button, you can fix them all. And you can do it piece by piece. You can click on it on the sidebar and go exactly in the paper to where it's being mentioned, because if it's an adjective, it might be hyphenated. If it were at the end of a sentence, it might not be. And again, it's running on Chicago Manual of Style, which is based on Merriam-Webster. And then at the end, you can remove all the double spaces with one click, and you can also see what changes it made and you made. And this other table of abbreviation, I think, is really, really useful. And so when I'm writing a grant and helping the researchers with that, I'll copy this and paste this to the top. So when they jump into the revisions, they know what's already been defined. So that's perfected. And that you can trial for free for 2 weeks, and then you do have to pay for it, but it's pretty reasonable. And again, just created by one person, and your text is completely safe when you put things into it. This is just sort of the features of it blown up, what it does after it checks your text. This is the tool I'm really excited about. Edit GPT. Again, one person created this. It does not take up your text. Everything you put in there is safe. For the free version, you can load in, I think, 10,000 words and 600 at a time for $10 a month, and he said he will never increase the price once you subscribe to this. You can put in 300,000 words and 10,000 at a time. And again, you will get these slides, but it can do all these different things. So it can make it to different style guidelines. It can make your text more formal, less formal. And I'm going to show you, when you start with grammar in the upper left-hand corner, that's the lightest level of editing. And you can see this is pretty complex text, right? Scientific text. And it saves the text within this, so you can compose and change things within here, and you won't lose anything if your computer crashes. You can export it with one button. You can accept and reject all the changes with one button, or you can do it piecemeal like you do in Word, looking at each one. So for example, in scientific text, this bottom one, I wouldn't change the greater than symbol to over or more than. I would leave that because you're trying to save space. But some of these other changes are maybe good. Jumping ahead a little bit, you can see it's making even more changes. This is supposed to be natural. So instead of saying elaborate, which is 4 syllables, it's saying advanced. I think that's a great change. Down in number 2, it's changing prediction of to predicting. Prediction of, words that end in ION are called zombie nouns. They're trying to function like verbs, but they aren't. So just use a verb. Our brains like imagining action. So that increases reader engagement and memorability of the text when you can imagine the action. Here you can see it's doing even more changes. And here with improve, it's making additional changes. And maybe elaborate, it's saying sophisticated. I don't really love that. And I would say some of these other changes, guide, inform, okay, maybe. But again, you're in complete control. So this is giving you suggestions. Involves the use of, to utilize, or even better, use. That's a good change, right? Here's rewrite. It's starting to look like Christmas here. Formal, maybe you have something that's a blog post that you're trying to make into something more academic. I've never used formal. But this is the button that I'm really, really impressed with. So I put in a NIH R01 grant proposal that I couldn't understand, and I had edited it the best that I could. So I put in my edited version, and it caught 2 things that I could make that I thought were good changes, and I put in the original just to see what it would do because it was so hard to understand. And it actually seemed like it understood the content, which is pretty amazing, but we realize we don't think of it because we are so good at English, but there are, set rules and phrases, and it knows that you can regroup and rearrange sentences and different word patterns. It's looking at these ION words and seeing if it can make them into into verbs, excuse me. But you can see in here, I think there's one, processing by the human brain to human brain processing. That's great. You're saving a lot of words. So again, I think if you're not a native English speaker, this might give you some of that, some of those tools to increase the level of your writing. So what I wanted to show you with this is combining the Flesch-Kincaid readability statistics. This is the starting text, and this is a published piece of text that somebody shared with me that's public. 37 words per sentence. Who knows, headlines are what, 8 to 12 words, right? That's about the most we can remember, and that's why things are in columns and not stretched across the page. We like shorter chunks of information where we remember them better. 37 words per sentence is way too long. The fastest way to reduce your reading level is by chopping a longer sentence into 2. So, and you can see our reading ease in 1.9, it's supposed to be 60, that's really bad, and we're at 22nd grade. So after running it through the concise thingy, we're at 30 words per sentence. The reading ease has gone up by a factor of 4, and we're at a 19th reading grade. Not bad, but a human editor can still do better. You could take all of this text, all of you, each of you, and make it better. So now we're at 22 words per sentence. Our reading ease has gone up even more, and we're now at a college level, like a senior in college, right? So that would be digestible for most people. And then all I want to show you with this demo, which again doesn't have sound, I have to click on the left side to get it to go. There we go. Don't panic when you run Edit GPT. It turns everything red. And you're going to have this split second of, give it back. But it's okay. And then again, it makes these changes, some of which you won't agree with. We're starting to do away with hyphens. So semi-quantitative depends on your style guideline, right? And again, you can do them all with one click or not. So that's all I wanted to show you, just how quick that is. Completely free, completely safe. Okay, so we're gonna move on. Really right, I don't wanna belabor the point here because you can go and play with it yourself, and you're all very, very smart people. You can use it separately or you can use it along with Microsoft Word. Here's what it looks like. So you're gonna get this nice color coding, and anything in green is one of those zombie nouns that I was talking about. Teal is wordiness, the use of. You could just say digital health technologies are changing, something like that. And then orange is a little bit too complex, so take a second look at those. The thing I like also, if you have somebody who needs a little bit of coaching with writing, instead of you doing it yourself, you can point them to these blogs, which are really, really excellent. And here's a whole one on zombie nouns. And leading to a reduction in, reducing the frequency of. So you can see very quickly how this makes your text more concise and more feeling like it has action within it. So the next thing I want to kind of shake it out. We're doing okay. Deep breath. I know it's a lot. Literature search. And as journalists, as science writers, we all go to PubMed. I don't know what other resources people use. GenAI, if you're just asking ChatGPT, it's going out and searching everything in the world and then using all this supercomputing power to take words and predict what's coming next. With PubMed, right, you're searching what's already been uploaded to that platform. The first tool that came out is called Perplexity. I'm actually not going to recommend it, so pens down, don't write that down. But this is a web search, and it used to be just AI assisted, and now they've added GenAI. But it's got 200 million research papers, and it shows you how much agreement the papers have with the query that you put in. And it looks like this. And I think what was really great about this tool, if you do any patient education or things like that, it also searches for images and for videos. So you could really quickly, if you were writing person first, disease first, what do patient advocacy groups for autism recommend? You could really quickly find a YouTube video that's one of the most popular ones about autism from an advocacy group and start educating yourself that way before you go and talk to a source. But again, all of these tools do this, so I would not recommend Perplexity. It does suggest related questions, which are also helpful for brainstorming, but all the other tools now do this. So this is the #1 tool that I'm excited about. It's called Cite AI. It was built with NSF and NIH funding through a SBIR innovation grant. And for phase 2, it has to be self-sustaining. So it's this free and premium model, but it's very reasonably priced. It works with Zotero. You can try it for 7 days for free. And there's so many of these tools now. You can go use Perplexity for a week for free and then change to Cite AI and then go to the next tool that I'm going to talk about and just use these things for free. Be sure to look for the educational discount too if you're associated with a university. And I think it's also important to know that the younger generation knows a lot about these tools, and so when you're getting articles sent to you, it's good to know maybe where they're doing research or how to advise them to do research in a more safe, effective way. So not only does this have 200 million research papers, like PDFs loaded up to it, it also has these 1.3 billion summary statements, which are shorter, truncated summaries of research papers, conference proceedings, things like that. And what's nice about this, it's not just giving you the one sentence, it's giving you the surrounding sentences, so that when it gives you a quick answer of a few sentences, they're all cited, and you can click on the citations. Sorry, last point here, it's also tracking retractions and corrections, which a lot of the other tools are not. So that's really important. It tells you whether the sentences and the text that it's calling up support your query or contrast with it, which is also really important for us as science writers to know not only about the research that supports our assumptions and what we're trying to persuade the audience, like vaccines work, but it's also good to read some materials and studies about maybe contrasting to that, so you know how to address these concerns directly with vaccine hesitant or vaccine skeptics. I think that's really important. And this is the GenAI component that it's added. And you can see with questions, you not only can ask a simple, like, go grab this information, but you can look at associations and whether there's linear or other correlations. Does social media impact mental health? And again, that's not saying positive or negative, and we all hate the word impact, but you get where this is going. So my point is, go to these tools first before you just go to ChatGPT, because this is essentially like a skyscraper library with 200 million papers uploaded that you can query to synthesize information. You can set up search prompts so that it sends you information when new papers are uploaded that are relevant to the queries that you've put in. You can set up these dashboards, and with the free plan, you can upload a custom dashboard with 100 DOIs. So you can start building very bespoke libraries with subtopics and then just go and search those. Or you could upload a paper that you haven't published yet that you want it to gather the information from as part of your library. So that's really useful. This is what it looks like. Same with PubMed. It's got a very easy user interface where you can toggle years, type of journal. You can even specify you want NIH-supported research specifically. Or you can search by a specific author or journal. So it's really quick. And then to give myself a break and let you see a
Published in
quick
Nature
demo,
in 2010.
this is how it works.
You might look at a few things, right? Where is it published? Who the author? What are their affiliations? And then some metrics. Maybe you're on your way downloading the PDF and reading. If, however, you click through to look at, what is the literature saying about this, you might come to a citation index that will show you the list of citing articles, whether that's Scopus, whether that's Science, or whether that's published or produced. In these lists, we are treating citations as if they're all the same, as if they're flat. And that is not right, right? There are many different ways and reasons to cite an article. Maybe this one cites in the introduction section, maybe this one cites in the method section, maybe this one is presenting supporting evidence to the claim, maybe this one is challenging it and directly refuting it. So a site, we want to make this information easy to digest and to understand so that you don't have to necessarily open 675 different documents, but you can get that insight in a very digestible and easy to use form. So if you look at this article through the lens of site, what you'll see is that we have basically the same metadata as the records, the title, the author, the abstract, And then we do have a list of citing documents, but then unique to cite, what we do is go into the full text and extract out the exact citation statements where that article is being cited. Right? So here's an article that cites it in 4 different places, 2 times in the results section, 2 times in the introduction section. And here is exactly how it's cited, right? So this little excerpt comes from the results section, and they're saying, in agreement with early reports, they cite the article of interest. They also cite this co-citation, so a related article, where they're agreeing with, right? We observed around 37% slower multiple turnover degradation, which they say is in agreement with early reports. This, the context, where we've got that context from, and then that classification is collectively what we call smart citation. We've extracted 1.3 billion smart citations from every open access article and then from the majority of subscription-based articles that allow you to quickly and easily see how any article's been cited, how any researcher's been cited, or how any topic's been cited. So say you're interested in USP 14 degradation and you're not interested in this article you found, but you want to quickly see how it's been discussed in literature. If you run a quick keyword-based search, you then get to see exactly how and why this has been discussed, right? So here is USP 14, here's how it's being discussed in literature. This is saving you time, showing you exactly how your topic of interest has been discussed before having to open the full article. And then it also gives you a variety of different ways. So who's working on this?
So I think I'm going to stop it there, but you can see with getting a 3-sentence snippet of 63 papers, how quickly you can get up to speed on a topic well enough to generate questions and be able to go interview a subject matter expert, right? And I don't know how easily that was to hear in the audience, so apologies about that. Consensus is also a new tool, and with every tool that you use, I recommend you spend 3 minutes, you're all journalists, you're all good at research, and go in and look at who created the tool and with what funding, and that will tell you a lot about the reliability of the tool. And the reason I like this tool, like all the other ones, it has free and a premium one. It does these key takeaways, a summary that's cited, this high-level GenAI synthesis of the response to your query. But this is the board of directors. This is a scientific advisory board here. These are experts in deep learning and misinformation. Jevin West, next to the blue-haired person, Jevin West, along with Carl T. Bergstrom, at University of Washington, created a course called Calling Bullshit. It's CALLIN apostrophe bullshit. And it's all about fighting mis and disinformation. The entire course syllabus, all the readings, all of the resources, all of the lectures are free online. If this is something you want to do a workshop on, you can go and look at that. You can spread the word. They want this as widely available as possible. So that makes me think they're really interested in this tool and making it accessible and usable for as many people as possible. And I like that it has this free version. It's only $9 a month for the premium, and there's a 40% educational student discount. So like if you have a GW edu email, use that. I also like these tools give you examples of prompts so that you can kind of know the level of detail that you can go into. And again, these are doing these associations, like tell me about the magnesium in sleep. And we'll talk a little bit about prompting as well. But again, this is going in and searching this skyscraper library with 2 million research papers across all fields of science. So you're using a lot less energy, even though it has this Gen AI component, because it's searching a closed system. And then it's not hallucinating anything, because you click on that sentence, you click on that number, it takes you directly to the paper. So it's such a time saver. I wish I'd had this in grad school. So here's an example of how it works. What are the benefits of mindfulness meditation? And then it's trying to tell you how many of those 2 million papers agree with your prompt. And you can go in and take a look at some of the ones that don't to see what is the other viewpoint. What are other people saying that don't agree with the research? And then when you interview a subject matter expert, you might want to bring up some of those questions, or when you go and find that person not affiliated with the study, maybe you interview somebody who has a totally different viewpoint and see where that leads you. Like PubMed, you can do, Q1 is like considered the top quarter of peer-reviewed journals, like the best ones, Nature, Cell, Science. You can look for randomized controlled trials specifically. You can look for human studies. Lots of ways to narrow your search and be specific. And you can also be specific with your output. This one on the bottom right says, group together the responses by pro and con cases. So again, you can kind of ask it to tailor the output to what's most usable for you. So now, that's a lot too. Okay, those are the good tools. Those are the really safe tools to use. Now we're going to jump into GenAI for the next 15 minutes. This is what GenAI tools do people know? I've already mentioned one. ChatGPT, Claude, Bing, which one? Privacy, I haven't heard of that one. Oh, Perplexity. Yeah, Perplexity. And then what's the number one problem with these tools? Well, there's more than one. But hallucinations, right? It can just make things up because it's a predictive model. It's saying if you have this word, you have these two words, you have this phrase, most likely this word comes after it. And what are these things training on for the prediction? Mostly white male text from the US and Western Europe from a certain amount of time, right? So there's bias baked into these tools, absolutely. It's not giving you citations. You can ask it to cite its sources, but again, half the time, maybe more than half the time, it just makes them up. I also read a terrifying statistic that more than half of the words available on the internet now are AI generated. So it's sort of like that photocopier issue, right? Where you're photocopying a photocopy of a photocopy. So the information that it's pulling from is getting less and less reliable. And of course, all the companies are working on this, but caveat emptor, right? You are responsible for knowing if it's uptaking your text and training its large language models. You would not want to put any identifiable patient information in there. You wouldn't want to put in confidential sources. You wouldn't want to put anything before it's published, quite possibly, right? You wouldn't want to violate your contract with the media outlet who's publishing. So here's an example. It's not exactly a hallucination, but it's an example of garbage in, garbage out, which they say in data and statistics. It pulls from what's on the internet. So somebody 7 years ago uploaded to the internet this joke disease, Kylo Ren syndrome, which is based on Star Wars, right? With this lightsaber hereditary optic neuropathy. 7 years later, this person is searching for something, and what pops up? His fake thing that he put into the internet as a joke to show that predatory journals would start contacting Dr. So-and-so, would you like to publish for this amount of money, Kylo Ren syndrome. It's still there, it's still out there, the internet is forever. In the last week, there's been this hilarious social media trend of putting in a fake idiom. You can't lick a badger twice. Any you Wisconsin-Madison people, I don't know if you have insight into that, but Google will give you this very, very confident explanation of what that idiom means, along with anything else nonsense that you put into it. And now that's on the internet, so if you Google this, the GenAI tools are going to think this is a real phrase that people use. And maybe we all are going to start using this, so can't lick a badger twice. I would say the number one thing, I keep saying number one, there are going to be many number one things I want you to take away from this. Huge environmental impact. So each prompt into a GenAI tool uses at least 8 ounces of water simply to cool the huge computing farms. And they tend to be in places like Texas and Nevada that has land that's cheaper, but also are really hot. And our world is getting hotter. So it's like running your air conditioning and cooling your house to 40 degrees all year round simply because we can. Right? It's like taking a Learjet 4 blocks away to the grocery store. So use these tools mindfully, learn how to prompt. Every single word and character you add ups the energy usage. Use the appropriate tool for your intended purpose. Learn how to prompt well. I'm going to talk about that in a second. The estimates now, I've been saying this for 2 years, a simple internet search uses 1/10 the energy of ChatGPT and these other tools. Now I'm hearing 1/10 to 1/30. The energy costs are going up. And I always say Google search, and I was like, I should be more neutral with the platform, and I just found one called Ecosia. And for every search, it plants a tree. And they planted more than 230 million trees as of 2 days ago. I started using it 3 days ago. I don't see any difference between Bing and Google. So I'm really excited about that. And the other thing, number one thing for you to take away, wink, wink, the responsibility is on you, right? For any output from GenAI, it needs to be fact-checked. It was not created by a human. You don't know where that information came from. And there are, of course, issues with artists and other writers having their information uploaded without their permission, and of course, privacy and data protection for yourselves. So instead of saying, rewrite this, I'm going to talk about the art of prompting. You have to be really specific. Talk to it as if you are talking to a 4-year-old. If you remember those Amelia Bedelia books, be really specific and concrete. And here are all the things that I want you to think about. Is that a long list? Yes. But does it make sense to take 3 minutes out of your day to learn how to craft a better prompt, and maybe even write it down, and then use your editor brain and take out 3 words from those 12 words to lower the energy usage? I think it is. So you want it to maybe, you can even say, assume a persona. You are a person who lives in Alabama, who is skeptic about vaccines, is a female in her 50s who has raised kids, who belongs to a community church, who cares about her family's health and herself. Take a look at this text, and how would you make it better to reach that person based on the things that I'm uploading? Create an outline. Find the assumptions that I'm making in my argument, things like that. So I'm going to give you an example, and again, you're going to get these slides, as well as some links for resources to learn how to prompt better. Okay, speeding up, and I have chocolate after this. These are the good things. These are the things that GenAI is actually really good at. If you're like me and you refuse to outline, even though you know you should, and you have written a couple pages, and you're like, I'm not sure if everything is actually in the optimal place in this document, you could upload that and ask GenAI to create an outline, or reverse outline in this case, because you've already written the text. You could put in a bunch of notes into Claude and ask it to do an outline, and you can even say how many paragraphs you want and how many sub-bullets you want for each topic, and it could suggest phrases for your subheads. It's really well generating headlines and subheads, probably better than some newspaper headline writers. But that's a whole other talk, right? You can have it identify passive, but again, I would put this first into one of those free tools that I showed you. I wouldn't do these things with it, but these came, GenAI, ChatGPT came out first. So these were some of the good uses for it initially. But all of these things you can do with those other tools. It's also funny, when my daughter was 4, she latched onto the word apparently, and every sentence had at least 2 apparentlys in it. Like, apparently we're going to the store because apparently we need broccoli. And ChatGPT does that as well. And so human writers in the beginning, 2 years and 3 months ago, stopped using in summary because it sounded like GenAI. And now, recently people have stopped using the word delve because that was like the favorite verb of ChatGPT. And now it's explicitly. Everything is explicitly. At least it's not literally. But you do not want to sound like GenAI. I want to keep the quirkiness of language. I want to keep some of those, the voice and tone of individual writers in, and that's something we talk a lot about editors. Again, I'm not going to go over all this stuff for ChatGPT, but these are the things. It's really good at writing code, for example. And AP has an agreement with ChatGPT to upload news articles to fight mis and disinformation. And Google, in January of 2025, just made an agreement with AP News as well. So that's good. They're trying to get more reputable, fact-checked reporting out there. Stay away from anything called deep seek, deep research. This is the Learjet, this is the Lamborghini. This is more for people trying to crack math theorems that people have worked on for hundreds of years, or huge data sets. Just don't use these tools. We don't need them. So the right level tool for the right purpose. Here I put in a PDF and asked it to create a summary for a slide set, so for a slide. Fantastic, 2 seconds, I have that. Could I have done that manually? Yes. Would it have taken me a long time? Yes. And then it asked if you'd like it formatted for a PowerPoint slide. I thought, this is fantastic, ChatGPT 4. This is what it came up with. In white, on the left is the slide. Below it and over here is everything that went over that one slide. It's not smart enough to know how to chunk the material to put it on a slide. So again, that was my fault of not prompting it well. and you would go back and reprompt it, but I didn't do that because I don't want to use GenAI. But somebody did this much better in a talk I attended last week, and she uploaded a PDF and got this summary. Again, it's an ugly slide, but does it kind of get the job done quickly? Yes. Is that something you need to do? Maybe. I did all of my slides by hand. Did it take forever? Yes. So different tools give you different output, and different models within different tools give you different output. So here it is in Microsoft, which is interesting because they were the parent company for PowerPoint. So I thought, this will do it better. Did it do it better? Any guesses? Nope. But it did ask me follow-up questions. You know, do I want it to elaborate on data protection regulations? What's the best design principles for PowerPoint slides? Again, I would just do a simple internet search, Ecosia search. I'm not going to use GenAI to get that information, but here's a really nice summary. That looks really nice. I can divide that up into 2 pieces and put that on a PowerPoint slide myself, because it would not do it. Maybe if you were within PowerPoint, within the software, maybe you could somehow upload the PDF. I don't know. Claude is another tool I'm going to talk about real quickly. It was a group that broke off from the ChatGPT group very early in development. They had ethical concerns that they broke off, they quit ChatGPT, they went off to form their own company. Claude has the best personality. It is like your sweet friend who's just trying to help you, and it's not like a sycophant like GPT. They rolled back that one because literally you'd ask GPT to critique your writing and it would just be like, you're doing great, you're the best writer. So they got rid of that because everybody hated it within the last week or 2. Claude AI is really good at writing. So if you are applying to jobs, because you know, we all know there's so many jobs out there in science writing and science research right now, and it's going to get better. So maybe you needed to upload your resume and a job description. It would write a first draft of the cover letter in seconds. That is a starting point for you. That might be a good use of it. It's also really good at summarizing things, but again, you can use some of those AI-assisted tools instead. But for example, somebody needed a grant title. So I said in the prompt, 10-word grant title with a colon, with a short phrase in the beginning, and then a more descriptive phrase, hopefully with a verb or something in the second part of it. And here you've got all these choices really, really quickly. I could not have done that as well in my head. Google Gemini is something that people are very excited about. Seattle Children's, for example, is telling people to use Google Gemini. You have to have a Google account, again, in free or paid. And then if you're trying to avoid ChatGPT for ethical reasons, you have to know that a lot of these other models are based on ChatGPT to some extent. They're using older, cheaper models. And then again, Associated Press is uploading news articles to Google Gemini as well. So for example, you could upload 20, 25 PDFs and ask it to give you a summary. That's a good use of this. And again, specifying the format. Nested outline bullet points with citations in APA style. So these are the different models. Flash is probably the one you'd want to use. Again, it's for more lower level reasoning, finding information, whereas Pro is more for like math and statistics and coding. So knowing a little bit about the model that you're using, and generally they're going to be the ones that are free, quite frankly. And you can also toggle the level of reasoning, which is basically the computer power that you need. So most of the time you could do low. And the example of high in this is a pretty complex math problem. And of course, there are ethics with college students using these tools for their homework, right? And probably nobody in here would need Google AI Studio, but you can actually have it spit out code and create an app, a software app, in like seconds. So that's pretty amazing. How many people have heard of Notebook LM? These are the last few slides. Very cool. Okay, college students should definitely know about this. Completely free, completely safe, does not take up your text, but also very, very powerful. And if you are kind of ADHD brain like I am, or you edit all day and you don't like to look at text at night, you can upload all your notes or a PDF and it will create a podcast for you, an audio file that you can just listen to. So that's really great. Very, very safe tool. Quillbot and Scribber. Have anybody heard of these tools? Again, I think a lot of college students are using these. Again, completely free. And I read an article about AI detection, and Quillbot ranked very high, like 100% success rate of detecting AI-generated text. The one thing I don't like about this, you'll see a little bit down in green, it has an AI humanizer. So you can put in AI text and it will make it sound more human. And I don't think that's very ethical. But again, different purposes, maybe somebody needs that to apply for a job or something. But is that misrepresentation? I don't know. Lots of issues here. And then if you did want to just upload a PDF and create a PowerPoint, this tool called Brisk, I think
I'm going to show you how to create a slide deck out of any article in seconds with Brisk. So here we are on an article on the internet. You can find any article that speaks to you. This is about a princess that no one has ever heard of. Now we're going to create a slide deck about her. So I'll click on the Brisk icon in the bottom right corner. I click Create and I click Presentation. From there, I can specify what I want the presentation to be about. I can change the language of the presentation. I can choose the template of the presentation. Let's make it the Brisk template. This will be for my 6th graders. I would like it to be 8 slides. I want to include images, and we'll Brisk it. And in seconds, a new tab is appearing, and slides about our princess are dropping in.
Okay, so you can see that. I'm going to stop it. I hope I stopped it. Did I stop it? Yep. So you can see that is really intended for teachers, right? It's not the most beautiful template, but it's popping in images. And my question is, are all those images like okay to use? For educational purposes, they are. That's considered fair use. But for another purpose, you would really need to investigate that. I think this brisket, which reminds me of like a brisket, it also works within Canva. So I think you could use your own slide templates for this. But you could see how quick that is. That just makes me want to use it. But again, I'm really trying not to use GenAI tools, and I do see the irony in me talking about GenAI when I really try not to use it for myself. So that brings us a little bit to images. And these 2 images, the first one I find incredibly offensive. This was a Lancet study using Midjourney, I think, to generate images. And the prompt was photorealism style of an African-American doctor giving vaccines to poor white children. And it came up with a bunch of images, and they tried reprompting. And it could do the poor white children. It could not do an African-American doctor. It did like a white, blonde, California surfer-looking dude, in native kente cloth. It's really, really bad. It's really, really bad. So I am apologizing ahead of time, but I want you to know some of the biases that are baked into image generation beyond this environmental impact. Lots of bias. And this is a Lancet article that got a lot of popular press, so you can go read the NPR article on it. But here we have a giraffe with a collar, and you'll see like people have 6 fingers. AI still does not do teeth and fingers well. And so it just couldn't, and then one of the other prompts was for something on HIV patients, and every single HIV patient was Black in the images that were generated. So you can see how this is incredibly problematic. So not just teeth and fingers. Again, I apologize if this offends anybody. This is not normal anatomy. This is a paper out of China about rat testes. And you can see from the blow up on this, they didn't even label it themselves. They used GenAI to label testum cells and the retat in the Petri dish. So yeah, really bad. And you'll see all these videos of things that are paid, things that are free, and you're like, yay, I want to use the free one. Again, know what these tools are. DeepSeek is the newest model out of China. It's engineered really cleverly, where if you ask it a cooking question, it only goes and fires up the 1,000 computers that are filled with cooking knowledge. So it's not doing all of them. It's like just using one part of your brain, which we know is not really true either. But don't just use things because they're free. DeepSeek has been outlawed by the entire country of Italy, US Congress, the military. Some people are using it locally downloaded, and then that's okay, like Perplexity is using it. But again, you kind of have to know what models these things are built on so that you know if you're using ethical tools and if your data is truly safe. So these 2 slides have the Mr. Yuck sticker, if you're old enough to remember that. So many tools, they're changing daily, new ones are coming out. This ZDNet is a really good source of comparison of tools and what they're good at, and it's written in a really engaging short blog post style. There are as we would believe, lots of newsletters. These are the ones that I find useful. 15 minutes a week, you will know more about tools, and they're usually kind of like 5 really short articles, so you can just skim and see what you're interested in. I just wanted to give you resources. And then this AI content detectors, this is the study where they looked at a lot of different ones of these to see which ones were good. So final slide, environmental impact is incredibly high and negative. Don't use please and thank you. These are not our overlords. Use as few words as you can. Add -AI to your internet searches and it won't use GenAI. Do that first and see if you can get the information that you need. Learn how to prompt well. And then I want to open it up for questions, but thank you so much. I know that's a lot, but you'll get the slides. I also brought chocolates from Seattle, and the wrappers are compostable, so come up and get chocolate afterwards, please. So, questions? Yeah. Yay. Somebody who's not shy. Don't feel guilty. Oh, we switch on the mic. It's on the bottom, maybe? And I'll repeat the question too. Go ahead. Yep.
Lower chance of having to submit a follow-up prompt, but at the same time, every word you add adds energy usage. So how do you balance a detailed, correct prompt?
That's a great
versus-
question. So the question is, you want to prompt really specifically, right? And that one that I did show you was fairly long, probably 12 words. So trying to balance that with using the fewest words possible. I think putting in a good prompt is still a lower energy usage than going back and re-prompting. Because when you re-prompt, it's still firing up all of that computing power to answer your question. It just is remembering your previous query and basing it on that as well. So go ahead and write a slightly longer prompt and try to get the most information that you can from the beginning. Thank you.
Hi, Ellen. Thank you so much. That was amazing. I definitely going to be looking up your notes. Excited to try a lot of those tools. Super excited about Site.ai. Their consensus meter sounds great. I was particularly intrigued by you hating Perplexity because I've been in love with it.
Have you used it recently?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm still using it on a daily basis.
Okay.
And you know, a lot of the criticisms you brought up made a lot of sense to me, but I was wondering, you did say that it, in addition to other LLMs, make up sources. I've never seen that Perplexity makes up sources. Does it? All the ones that I've clicked on are real, and it
That's
shows.
good. Okay, I should do a little bit more research on that because Perplexity, to my understanding, is not a closed system. It is going out and searching the internet. So it is citing where it gets the information from, but in its synthesis of it, it might be making up some things
yeah.
because of that GenAI component. And it's also, Perplexity worked really well in the beginning, and now it doesn't work as well. And now part of it is running on Grok, which is Elon Musk's platform. So that's the other reason I'm like, I just refuse to use it because I don't want to give any money to Elon Musk.
I think the actual summaries, the actual information, I think it has gotten less reliable, and I assumed that I was just like, oh, well, maybe I just wasn't noticing how unreliable it was to begin with.
No, it was much better before, and I think they've changed sort of the platform that it's running on, the software.
What I'm mostly using it now is as a search engine to find the things I want, elsewhere on the web.
Yeah, so try Ecosia.
Ecosia?
Yeah, Ecosia. Try just a simple internet search first instead of a GenAI one. If you don't need that synthesis high-level summary. So,
It's been sucking.
yeah.
So, Ecosia?
Ecosia, yeah, just the internet search, but maybe Site AI. And it also depends what you're researching. It's just biomedical research, so I can do it within those 200 million research papers. I would definitely start there with Site or Consensus. There's also one called SciSpace, SCI Space, completely free. It makes a little table. Try that first.
Thank you.
Yeah. But if it's something you know nothing about, I mean, that's even a little harder, and I would start with that library so you know it's good information that it's searching if you know less about the topic. Yeah, just shout it and I'll repeat it because I'm not sure that microphone's working. I love that start. Thank you. Good question. Okay, I'm going to make it gender neutral. If you're saving all this time with AI, what are you doing with that time? You putting it back into the capitalistic society that we live in, or are you doing something worthy with your time? And I will say, I edited a paper that walking in nature, even urban nature, changes patterning between specific parts of your brain. So get out in nature and get out under tree canopy cover. I don't use GenAI all that much, so I'm probably not saving any time, and I do these talks and I'm researching and updating them constantly, so this took me like 12 hours to update the slide set. So GenAI is not saving me any time, but it's diversifying the type of work that I do. I would use that time to delve deeper, do a better developmental edit of text. Think if you can widen your sources, use GenAI or the Open Notebook. Find a subject matter expert in Africa or the Global South. Broaden your lens of focus, perhaps. You can concentrate on the content a little bit more, and that's what I'm hoping Edit GPT does for especially non-native writers, is to bring their writing up to a level that then when they turn it into their professor or their editor or the outlet that wanted that media piece, it's in better shape so that the editor can dive deeper into the content and not be fixing dashes in spelling or phrases.
Hi, forgive me if I'm asking something that you may have mentioned.
No worries, it's a lot.
For me, I use Chat PDF because what you've shown is like a lot of lit search tools, and that's great. But I also want, like, when I find a journal article, I want AI or a program to tell me what the article's about.
Yep.
Especially if it's a complex medical, research, and I can't make heads or tails of what they're talking about. And so I've been using Chat PDF, and so I wanted to know if you knew about it and what your thoughts are.
I actually don't. I'll do some research on that and get back to you. But for all of those tools that I showed you, like Cite AI, you can upload and query a PDF. So you can upload your own materials and have it query that and give you a summary just from that paper using GenAI. So that's a really good use of it. Is, like, we all know PDFs are hard to work with. So searching PDFs, you can say, give me a list of all the statistics in this paper and the sentence that surrounds them. That's a good use of AI. That saves you a lot of time. Yeah, good question. I haven't played with Chat PDF. Okay, I'll check that out. Any other questions? Got like under 4 minutes. But please do not make me go home with this chocolate, and please remember the wrappers are compostable. It's Seattle Chocolate. It's a woman-owned company, and they donated hundreds of thousands of these truffles to me during the pandemic to get to our regional trauma center and University of Washington Virology, who was doing almost all of the COVID testing for the entire nation in 2020. So I think that's it for questions. Please don't be shy. Please come get chocolate. Thank you so much, and thank you, Duxwa, and thank you, Michael, in particular, for inviting me.
Thank you, Ellen.
There's also the ingredients, so you can check what's in the chocolate.